Thank you, Fernando, and hello, everyone. Welcome to this webinar. Good morning to all the people who are listening from Europe, and good afternoon for the ones who are listening to us from Asia. As Fernando just said, we are going to talk about our Grid Parity Monitor study, focused only on the residential segment. First of all, I would like to introduce to you our new company. As in January 2014, we merged with Clarion, merged with a new company called Creara, and we formed Creara Energy Experts, and we just consolidate our leadership in the energy services market. To begin with, as always, let me first introduce you the definition of grid parity, which for our study is considered as the moment when the cost of generating PV electricity is equal to the price paid for grid electricity. Also, we assume that 100% of the electricity is self-consumed instantaneously, which is not really likely to happen. But in the case that there is a net metering regime or a net billing or any equivalent mechanism in place, you can have this situation. However, under this kind of mechanisms, you can see that PV electricity fed into the grid normally is compensated below retail electricity rates. In this case, the investment is not that attractive. As you can see in the diagram, the cost of generating PV electricity is calculated through the levelized cost of electricity, which is called the LCOE. And then it's compensated with the electricity plus a price plus taxes that we pay to the utility. On the left hand of the diagram, you can see how grid electricity is cheaper than the LCOE. So in these cases, we would really need a lot of support from the government, like a feed-in tariff, any tax credits, and this kind of stuff. On the right side of the diagram, you can see that the PV-generated electricity is cheaper than the grid electricity price that we pay for the utilities. So in these cases, it's really convenient to self-consume PV electricity, but also any mechanism that supports this is actually quite good. In our report, it's based on a rigorous and transparent methodology that you can find it in the report itself, which is on the same web page, Leonardo Energy. But the main characteristics are found in this table. It analyzes PV competitiveness with retail electricity prices for different markets. We have chosen 5 potential European markets, such as France, Germany, Italy, UK, and Spain, and then 7 promising markets outside Europe, which are Australia, Brazil, California, Chile, Japan, Israel, and Mexico. Japan and Israel are added to this new version of the GPM series. It actually uses real and updated data provided by local PV installers who give us turnkey quotations of these systems, and it includes specific data for each of the countries. The PV Grid Parity Monitor is sponsored by a company such as Sun Edison and Ingetem. It's also supported by the European Copper Institute. We have some technical partners such as Her Model Solar, SunPower, and then we have some associations, PV associations normally, that help us with the study. These are Acera, ANEF, the Australian PV Institute, the French and German Office for Renewable Energies, and British Photovoltaic Association. As we said before, the value we use to calculate the proximity to grid parity is the LCOE, which is the constant and theoretical cost of generating PV electricity, as you can see in the diagram. The LCOE incorporates all the PV system costs, such as the initial investment, the operating cost, the taxes you have to pay, and it assumes all these costs in a constant value per year expressed as cost per kilowatt hour. However, if a country has no net metering or no net billing or any similar mechanism, as we said before, established that enables this 100% instant self-consumption, we should take down a case-by-case analysis in order to see the results of the country itself. We also should bear in mind that what we are comparing is the cost of the electricity generating during the entire life of a PV system against today's retail price for electricity. So this is really important because it has some implications. Because while future grid electricity prices are likely to increase or to change, PV LCOE is fixed in the moment the system is built. In this diagram, you can see the results of this number of the GPM series, which included data as for the first semester of 2014. As you can see, Mexico is a great example of a good combination between grid parity and an effective regulation, which generates an attractive investment opportunity for DAC consumers in this case. Also, you can see that Australia, Italy, and Germany are well positioned in this matrix. They have reached full grid parity, but the regulatory support that they have enables the consumer to compensate, but at a lower rate than the net metering, which is kilowatt hour per kilowatt hour. Also, a country worth mentioning is Spain, because Spain has reached grid parity, but the regulatory support is really bad. So PV self-consumption is not incentive at all. In this presentation, we are only going to see the results of the European, Asian, and Australian countries because of the time hour. As you can see, Australia, full grid parity has been reached from an economic point of view. The LCOE has decreased an average of 28% since 2009. This is the biggest decrease that we have seen in all the countries under study. And electricity prices have risen, so that's the matter why full grid parity is reached. The Australian regulatory framework, fosters PV self-consumption in an effective way, with a net metering system for New South Wales, which is the country analyzed right now. In exchange, in France, from an economic point of view, from the consumer will not opt for PV self-consumption, not only because of the prices that are still higher than the electricity rates, but also because the feed-in tariff scheme that they have in France does not foster self-consumption. Although it's worth mentioning that in this case, we have only studied BIPV systems, although we know that BIPV are the most common in the country. It exists cases such as Marseille, where if you take advantage of the most competitive quotation of the LCOE, the peak tariff is higher, although in average, PV self-consumption is not feasible for the consumer. In Germany, there hasn't been any changes a lot since last year's GPM, because for both Munich and Berlin, PV full grid parity has been reached, even though self-consumption is incentivized at a lower rate than the electricity prices. Israel is the first time we take it into a study, and actually, from an economic point of view, it's just starting to be interesting for a normal consumer to self-consume PV electricity. It would be very interesting to see how this evolves with the matter of time, because also the electricity prices due to the oil problem and stuff may change a lot, so it would be very interesting to see how it has evolved for last years. but in at first insight, it actually seems like a promising market for the near future. In Italy, full grid parity has also been reached for all the different quotations of tariffs they have. The different tariffs vary depending on the consumption consumers have. The higher the consumption, the more profitable the PV system is. And also they have a net metering scheme which is called the Cambio sul Posto, which actually fosters on a good way the self-consumption, although, as in Germany, at a lower rate than the grid electricity prices. Japan is also a new country added to the study, and it presents an excellent opportunity to develop a suitable market. Although this graph only shows the results of Tokyo. And I say this because Tokyo has one of the highest electricity rates of all Japan, and also the feed-in tariff mechanism that they have in Tokyo is not implemented in all the cities of Japan. So this can change from one part of to the other on this country. In Spain, as I told you before, grid parity has been reached, but it is really, really necessary the publication of a new regulation that allows consumers to feed their excess generation to the grid, because with this lack of regulatory support, PV prices have been changing a lot throughout the last year, because some installers have opted for two options. Some of them have decided to introduce a new inverter in the system, which has a power control, and then this increases the price of the PV system. And other installers have just decided to shift their core business to other projects because there wasn't a market. Also, the electricity rates in Spain have been facing different changes. The fixed component has raised, but actually the variable component of the electricity tariff has been reduced. So as you can see, we have actually reached grid parity, but the regulatory support is really bad to foster the self-consumption market. In the UK, even if the LCOE has been decreased, as you can see in the different graphs from London and Plymouth, in the last years, PV technology is still far from being competitive, mainly because grid electricity prices haven't been facing any decrease. They have decreased, but not as much as in other countries in Europe. Although the regulatory support fosters the self-consumption in a good way with the FIT SIM, but they not only receive a FIT SIM, they actually receive a tariff for the PV electricity produced, which is called the generation tariff, and then a bonus for the excess electricity fed into the grid. So it's actually a really good regulatory support for self-consumption. According to the study, all the countries are evolving towards grid parity. As I told you before, we have in Australia a decline of 28%, which is really big, and then in Spain only 5% because of all the changes that I've mentioned before. And also, as long as the markets evolve, the residential consumer will perceive lower risk, which actually will result on a good way for PV market, because consumers will take more awareness about what is to self-consume and what benefits can have for them. As I told you before, some of the countries have reached full grid parity, and these are Australia, Germany, Italy, and Japan. But also Mexico and Chile, which are not in this presentation, have also reached full grid parity, and you can see it on the report, as I told you. I know that in some places, like Spain, we said that grid parity has been reached. But as I said before, regulatory support is really necessary to foster a self-consumption market for PV. Because we have So we have to see on future issues of the GPM how this regulatory support evolves in these countries, because some of them can change really from one year to another depending only in the self-consumption regulatory support. So as you may know, the GPM is updated every year to show the evolution of this PV grid parity proximity. And as you can see in the graph, you can see that the next issues will be a new one focused only in Chile, which will be published mid-March. And then afterwards, in April, we will publish one for Mexico. And then the update of the commercial and the utility scale ones will come in May and July of 2015. Another webinar about this third issue of the residential segment will take place on 5th of this next Thursday, 5th of March, and will be focused on the results from Europe and the Americas. Well, I would like to thank you very much to all of you, and also to Fernando. And if you have any comments or questions, we will be very glad to answer them. You can contact us with the email address that we can see in the graphs. Thank you very much.